Kosmic Enlightenment podcast, and today I have a very special guest. This has been years in the making, but 19 Keys.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming. So the first question I like to ask, just like as an icebreaker, is what jump started you in your journey to enlightenment?
My parents, I was born into it. You know, most people they probably pick it up somewhere along the way, but and I say that because at the foundation, my parents told me I was a God, and I think at the highest level, when people seek enlightenment, they seeking to get tapped into their God self, right? Their cosmic self. You know, but for me, I grew up in a paradigm where we wore the sun, moon, and stars. You understand me? Like we had that on our lapel, on our heads, our flag. I seen it everywhere. And so enlightenment was just a natural order in the household as far as the search of knowledge of self. You feel me? But then, you know, as you grow as an adult, it's different. It actually comes with understanding. What does that mean? And then there's a protocol. For me, enlightenment is understanding to be, right? It's just simple to be, right? It's being able to live at a frequency of bliss. Right? Throughout life, it was my tragedies and my hardships, going through court cases, right? Seeing so many people struggle, going through hard times. Those are the things I think brought me to enlightenment. The darkness. First beginning spark was being told about my higher self, being told that I'm a God from Black Muslim parents that raised me up with knowledge of self and consciousness. And the rest has been many different roads, some dark, right? Some light, but a constant reminder of who I am. And in seeking that, I seek truth. I'm a truth seeker. I seek knowledge, so I seek it wherever it's at. But I grew up in a household where knowledge was first protocol, knowledge of self. And so enlightenment to me is knowing yourself, having an understanding about your place in the universe and what you're here to do, right? And for me, I understand that I'm here to shift the world. I've been through probably all of the adverse situations you can go through. You know, typically and untypically, but I got an outlier personality because I live at a frequency above what I go through.
Speak. Yes, definitely agree that enlightenment is definitely a journey, and life itself kind of creates that enlightenment on the way. So.
100%. I think people overthink it, but I don't think it's just, you know, sometimes we get eureka moments where it's just, things get put into perspective and it shifts our awareness into different points of view. Right? We think about things from survival. This is what I'm going through, right? This is how I see myself. Then you learn how other people see you. Then you learn how you see throughout the world. And all those different perspectives, you also learn how you can impact the world and what you can do. You learn about your capabilities, your powers. You feel me? And for me, I've always had a great inner voice and a great inner eye. You know, and that inner voice is that spirit within that guides me and tell me what to do. That inner eye shows me, right, what's possible. I can imagine something and then I can go in the world and execute it into reality.
That's nice. So you speak about that inner voice and the inner eye. I know some people may get the inner voice and the inner eye, but they don't know how to listen to it, or they doubt it. What would you say to those people who doubt their intuition or their inner voice?
Have courage. You know, I think that doubt comes from fear, it comes from insecurities. Right? People talk about perfectionism. Perfectionism comes from an insecurity, never thinking things are good enough. Right? It's ready whenever you say it is. So for me, I think that the shift happens in people's lives when they start to have courage. That's the thing. It's like this whole thing that people searching for that moment in time where things kind of shift for them. It's a small tweak. And there's always been practices of masters and mystics and occultists and, you know, esoterics, and now modern psychology of understanding what's that difference that some people operate on. They live at a different frequency. They don't operate in shame and guilt and fear and victimhood. They operate with pride and courage, right? And honor and power and rulership. So it's a shift of perspective, and then you have to maintain it. One thing I call it a top floor frequency. The frequency that's required to stay at the top floor is completely different than the one at the bottom floor. The bottom floor don't require much, except it requires some fear, right? A fearless man ain't gonna stay at the bottom. So you have to maintain your fear to stay at the bottom. Means you have to constantly feed it, you have to constantly worry, you have to constantly doubt, you have to constantly stress, you have to constantly have anxiety. All of these different things maintains your lowest level. But when you start getting that top floor activity, man, that requires you to do something different. You feel me? You gotta dress different, you gotta walk different, you gotta talk different, you gotta eat different, right? You gotta communicate with people and build relationships, and you start maintaining this frequency, and you gotta stay there and live there and fight for it at all times. But the fight is not this friction, the fight is this flow, knowing versus believing. I know the sun is gonna rise. I know the sun is gonna come down. I know that the moon is gonna, take its place at night. These are things that I know. These are not things that I believe, right? So when you know yourself, that becomes a higher degree of the way that you live. Things will happen because I say so. Everything gets better and better because I say so. As long as I live in that energy of confidence and it continues to rise, and then I disconnect myself from the outcome so that my emotions don't constantly flurry based on expectations, I'm in flow and I'm at that higher frequency forever.
Nice. So when it comes to maintaining the frequency and controlling the emotions and maintaining your emotions to stay at that frequency, what would you say is the key points in your daily life that can help maintain that frequency?
I think first waking up with gratitude, going to sleep with gratitude, it creates this cycle, right? So you think about the day that you want, and that's the day that you have, and you don't leave any room for that doubt. So it starts with that confidence, right? So I wake up and I think about, all right, today is an amazing, it's not about to be, today is an amazing day. And that energy, right, I just carry throughout the rest of the day, and it stays that way. Right now, let me see what's gonna happen today. I mean, anything can happen, good or bad. No, today is good, and the full day gonna be good. Matter of fact, this week gonna be good. Matter of fact, life is good, right? And so you eliminating all of those doubts and those worries in the beginning, and then you think about that as you go to sleep as well. So now you have this cycle of waking rhythm and sleeping rhythm. Now it's programmed into you when you go to sleep, and it's programming you through your daily waking hours. And I think just that small tweak for people, if they practice it, will put them on this rhythm, right? And so the reality of it is that what you do frequently becomes your frequency. So if you have a rhythm of doing the right things, then you'll live the right life. If you have a rhythm of doing the wrong things, it's not a life that you're going to enjoy. But I have joy because I'm in the present. So working out, physical, right? Reading a book, mental, right? Eating right. Another thing helps with your gut. You also want to not make it hard for yourself to live at a higher level. You eat bad foods and then you want to have a good mood. You start messing up your gut material on the inside. Like, don't do that. You are constantly listening to people that call you and complain about their life. Now you got their thoughts in your head. Now you got their worries. You're not worried about yourself, you're worried about them. No, sometimes you gotta separate to elevate. So put yourself in a space around the people doing the things that you want to do based on the life that you want to produce. And it's not easy for people to hear, but it's the challenge that you have to accept.
Yeah, so I know you speak of like separating yourself or distancing yourself from people who don't understand that. For the people who, I guess, are not necessarily on the frequency that others that operate on a higher level, they may chime in on the people who elevate life. What would you say to those people who may feel a certain way, that someone may have distanced themselves, but they can see that they can also elevate to that same level? What would you say to those people?
Well, it's not my job to monitor your feelings. You're supposed to feel a certain way, but that's also your job to shift that feeling. I can't stop you from having bad thoughts. I can't stop you from having weak thoughts. You become a strong person when you learn how to control that, right? And so if somebody disconnect from me, what's gonna make me self-reflect? Why? God is in the why. You get to an understanding, right? The devil is in the ignorance. You don't understand things. You operate from that place of ignorance, it automatically creates that fear. Because you don't know. That's what creates the worries, the anxiety. If somebody disconnect because they doing something for their life, that's good, right? Obviously, maybe my frequency is too high. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's putting too much pressure on them. So maybe they like, man, I can't be around kids. You gotta be doing too much. I understand. I get it. It had nothing to do with me. It's all about you. And the goal is to figure out what works for you. If I disconnect from you because all you do is complain about your life, you know why. You want me to suffer with you, but I don't plan on suffering at all. So I'm not about to live your life through listening to you. Because now that's in my mind's eye as well. Now you speaking into my mind's ear. Like, nah, I don't need that. My brain and my mind is too powerful, and I can't let you program it with things I don't want to produce. So separation is healthy, is love. Self-love, right, is the reflection of all love. The way you love yourself is the way you love others, right? If a person can understand how someone loves themselves, they can understand their process of loving others. So for me, you know, it's a respect thing, and if people don't like it, that's just too bad. But you gotta have that courage. That's why I say the shift starts at courage. The courage is when you act in the face of fear. It's not in the absence. That means there has to be something there, and you still push forward.
Right. The second facts. I know for me, when it came to like me separating myself or others like distancing themselves from me, it's like I kind of took it personal, but then I had to understand I do things different. I eat a certain way. I work out. I do meditation and stuff. It's like people who are not doing that, they can't maintain that frequency, so they kind of push you away themselves sometimes. So it's like you have to understand that and not feel a certain way about yourself. Don't doubt yourself, what you're doing, and continue to do what you're doing and just maintain your frequency.
I agree.
Because the right people eventually comes in. So.
I agree.
Okay, so there's another question I want to ask you. So when it comes to like the key principles that's essential to unlocking your highest potential, what would you say those principles are?
I think self-love is one. You have to love yourself. I think growth. Focusing on growth makes you learn and develop the skills that you need. You know, becoming a lifelong learner, right? I think that the focus on growth is such a huge thing because what I notice is that there's a shift in patterns that need to happen to most people. If you focus on community more than you focus on growth, right? You're going to need that community more than that community needs you, right? And the goal is you focus on growth, you develop enough value to where that community needs you because now you can contribute, right? But if you focus on contribution more than you focus on growth, you want to contribute and do something, but you don't actually have the value to contribute, right? If you focus on significance more than you focus on growth, it's going to make you compete, right, with others for the ego of it versus focusing on what you can contribute to the community that can make you significant towards it. So the goal for everybody should be focused on growth and development, right? What am I learning? Getting to clear thinking so that you can say, I'm getting better at this thing called life. I know how to think better. I know how to understand things. So it's growth, right? It's contribution, it's community, right? It's significance. So as I develop my skills, I learn and I grow, I can contribute, not compete. I work well with others, I collaborate. Now I have value inside this community, I have connection, I have relationships, and that gives me my significance, and it becomes this cycle. But when you grow up in environments to where you don't have family that love you and teach you how to love yourself, you have needs that are deprived. So now you need to be more significant because nobody told you you were when you were younger. Now you need a community because you felt abandoned when you were younger, right? But now you compete with others. You didn't have the proper work ethic and development, so now you don't know how to learn. You don't know how to grow. So now you can't even add the value to the community. So the goal when you are proper nurturing and proper loving and you have the proper environment, yeah, you develop in the right way to where you can continue to be on this cycle of success.
Yes. And you speak of community and being in the right environment and building families and stuff. What would you say is important in building the melanated community from all the, you know, the trials and tribulations we have faced for many years? What would you say is the important principles in order to do that?
I think going back to it, courage. All we need is the courage to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got everything. We don't need nothing. The goal is to have the best of us, representation. The best of us is supposed to represent the rest of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that we can constantly aspire to be more.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of ambition. If you go look at the statistics, right? We are consumers. We represent 13% of the population, but we're the largest consumer group in America.
Mm-hmm.
We are aspirational in the sense of becoming more as a culture. We're changing that, we're shifting that. This is what's going to happen, but we're ambitious in a point that I want to go gain more and more and more, because you're trying to fill up insecurity. You're trying to get past these doubts and worries. So wait a minute, if I go buy the watch, if I go buy the car, they're going to look at me differently. They're going to respect me, they're going to love me, they're going to value me, or they're going to fear me, whatever it may be. And so if you don't have that natural confidence within yourself, that natural self-awareness, that knowledge of yourself, understanding your God and cosmic self, then yeah, you need all those exterior things to make up for what you lack on the inside. So self-love is key. Representation is key. You understand me? Those are the things, and courage is key. Those are the things, and of course family, that we need to get in order. Family is the number one thing that we need to get in order. You feel me? But there also just need to be a shift to where we completely shift out of the matrix of victim mentality, and we see ourselves as victors. We see ourselves as heroes. We see ourselves as our own saviors. If we were to stop right now and everybody was like, all right, what do we have and how can we use it? So going back to luxury, Bernard Arnault is the owner of Louis Vuitton, right? And we make him rich and rich and rich and richer every single year. How? Because even though we represent 13% of the population, by 2030, we're going to spend $70 billion on luxury goods, apparel, right? Luxury design, because we want that. We want to feel our insecurities are making people wealthy, but it's not making us wealthy, right? So just by changing, right, our insecurities, just by healing, right, all of those issues and shadow things, now we can focus and be like, wait a minute, we got that much power. And he's saying you can go get fly, but what if we control the manufacturing? What if we produce what we consume and just, instead of consuming what everybody else is producing? That means that you become a prosumer, right? So now as we produce the consumption, every time we consume something, it's feeding the family, right? We're creating jobs, we're stimulating our own economy, right? We're solving the recidivism rate in the prisons. We're solving poverty-induced stress trauma, right? We're creating generational wealth. We're creating trust fund babies, right? We're doing the things that we're asking politicians to do when we can do it right now. There's no wait time. There's just a realization and awakening where it's like, ah, he's right, let's do it. That's where we at. We on that type of time now.
Yes, definitely agree. I'm really big on mental health, as you are as well. What is one thing or multiple things you say we can do to heal our mental health, and what can we create as leaders that helps with mental health hygiene?
I think as a community, starting off as leaders, I think it's about, creating communities themselves, right? To where people can be heard and people can be seen. But not to soak in victimhood consistently, but sometimes we need to talk things out. But I think the number one thing is going to nature. There's a concept called Yoku Shinran. It means forest bathing. In the 1980s, when Japanese were dealing with mental health issues, they would take groups of people out to the forest for 2 days. And it would decrease cortisol levels, which happens when you're stressed, by 50%. And it would also help us produce anti-cancer genes, right? We get cancer from stressing. We get cancer, we lower our immune system. So eating better, being in environments of support, going into nature, exercising, working out, speaking affirmations into our DNA to cleanse out all of the traumas and the ills. All of these things are necessary, doing the shadow work. And so as leaders, it's our job to be able to create these environments that people can be in to where they can heal, right? And so people call them safe spaces, but we got to even elevate that. There need to be spaces, not just where we feel safe. Safety is number one because the nervous system is able to relax, and in that state of relaxation is where we can finally heal. And call it a nervous system. We constantly nervous. You know what I mean? We nervous about the system.
Yeah. There was this post that I commented on about like the conditions of the economy, how rent is so high, food is so high, and just everyday necessities is like has skyrocketed, like deodorant, toothpaste, or whatever. And I commented saying that there needs to be a like a strike on everything all at once, like not going to work, not paying bills, not paying rent. And people started to ask me, okay, I totally agree. When do we start? How do we start this? Like, what would you say is needed to start like a mass strike on the conditions? Because it's not going to change unless a multitude of people get together to make the change.
Only 100% dissatisfaction brings about 100% change. So the people aren't dissatisfied enough. Things have to get worse before they get better, right? People are still believing that politicians are going to save their life. They still think that if there's a black woman as a president, things are going to get better for them. It's identity politics, because that's all they have to hold on. There's some people think that the rich white man is going to save them. These are slaves picking plantations. They're not dissatisfied enough to get freedom. They just want better treatment on the plantation. So there has to be dissatisfaction. Those who are free already have untethered themselves to a system that they know is not made to do for them. But everybody should be focused on doing for self anyway. I don't want welfare from the state. I do want equity. I do want proper treatment, right? Nobody should be discriminated against based on, their status, creed, color, skin. Not whatsoever. But I'm also not about to live in the mentality of a victim, right? And I think that that's something that we really need to change. But dissatisfaction, we are not dissatisfied enough to create that change.
I can definitely see that being true.
But this has been a good conversation, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to see what else I want to ask you. So I know you're big on building financial freedom, financial wealth, and you teach financial literacy. What are some strategies that were overlooked that we can start to inspire others to learn financial literacy, wealth?
I think just start. There's really no magic to it. Financial literacy is just understanding the language of it and learning how to express it. But most people are too stuck in the survival mode. Like, at the end of the day, create a savings plan, create a business plan, have a goal, write it out, right? Study something daily, weekly. Create an automated investment account, right? To where you can take out a percentage of your money. If you spend as much money as you make, you'll always be broke. So you're supposed to have it broken up to where, okay, there's 100% of what I make. I'll take a percentage of that and I invest. I'll take a percentage of that I spend. I'll take a percentage of that I save, right? Over time, those percentages can change, right? You look into starting your trust, right? You look into getting your credit right. You look into getting your business credit right. You look into getting your family's credit right? You look into just educating yourself on the way the world works. Financial literacy is just the rules of the system. There's a shortcut. There's ways to get through every single thing. The information is not hidden from you anymore. That's not the problem. So I'm not going to treat people like they're children. If you want to be financially literate, but the question becomes is why? Well, you want freedom. You want to own a little bit of your time. You want to stop worrying about next week paycheck. You feel me? And it's just a shift in the way that you go about things and the way that you feel about yourself, right? You tired of running out of money, right? Like, create a plan and live, number one, by your means. People try to live outside their means, right? And therefore, they're always losing. They're always needing more because you're over consuming, because you're watching everybody else. So I would say, number one, shut off social media. That's financial literacy. Stop watching social media. It's making you broke. You know what I mean? Just do it.
Unless you're making money.
Well, yeah, that's the case, but I'm talking about stop watching everybody else. Stop watching everybody else's pockets. Stop looking at what everybody else got. You don't even want that. You only got it because you see them with it, but you're not willing to do what they did in order to get it, right? So if you don't want their process, they don't want their results. And so for me, you know, economic literacy, financial literacy, business literacy, yeah, I mean, you just learning the way the world works. You're becoming a full human being, right? You becoming a mature adult. That's all financial literacy is adulthood. You know, you want to mature, do it. You want some money, do it. You feel me? You want the woman that you want, right? You want the car that you want the house that you want the vacation that you want. You have an idea about a life that you want. You can't just be stuck in the stars in this so-called enlightenment, but you can't produce and manifest for yourself. That's not adulthood. That's that fake new age spiritual guru crap that's being sold because they're afraid to be men, right? There's women that's afraid to be women. And so you go blame the system instead of learning how to play it. The immigrant come over here with so much energy because they got a perspective. They don't have to change their hustle. They keep the same hustle they had in their country. But there's more opportunities here. So they're able to advance past. Now, a lot of people want to blame immigrants. Man, I respect it. If I was in another country where I wasn't getting just due, I'm going to come to America and take the opportunity you're not taking. It is what it is. I'm not about to complain because, you know, somebody who was born with one leg is beating you in a race. Take it or leave it.
So another part of building financial wealth and health is mindset. And I know a lot of people are stuck in a poverty mindset. And then also just spirituality, of course, plays into that, knowing how to manifest the life you want, the money you want, like you said, the spouse you want. It all plays into your mindset. Knowing that you're capable of doing these things, you're worthy of doing these things. What would you say is important to you in building a healthy mindset in that aspect?
I think it's about mental completeness. So you look at all of the areas, like I'll make a list on what are my skills, what are my talents, what are my gifts. And if I want to build my story out further, what have been my challenges in life? What have been my adversities, right? What makes me unique? What makes me different, right? So I write all of that down so I can see myself on paper, right? What do I want to add to it? What do I want to take away? If I look at myself and say, I want to become 100%, right, in all areas. But what does my 100% look like? What does it look like physically? This is a mental exercise. What does it look like physically for me to be at 100%, right? You can't tell me that you, with this weak, bony body that gets tired daily and you have a flux of hormones or you got a big back you want to get rid of, you can't tell me that that's your ideal self. Now you have these ideal goals, but you don't have the ideal body, which is the vehicle that's going to help you get through, right? So God was just ask you a choice, like, is this the body you want for the goals that you have? No, you're going to say no. And He'd let you choose another one, you would choose another. So that's how you have to go through life. Like, let me choose the right body that's going to actually allow me to have the energy and the strength needed every single day. But developing the body, you got to develop the mind, because now you got to build the consistency to go through the challenge of going to the gym every day, which builds the habit, right? And it's developing the habits that is the mindset, because the mind becomes the habits, it becomes the pattern becomes the character becomes the life, right? So that's all just frequency. What you do frequently becomes your frequency. So now we're talking spiritual development. What do you read, right? What do you give zakat, which is charity, right? What are your virtues? Are you a good person? What do you do that's aligned with constantly feeding your spirit, right? Do you meditate? Do you practice any mentalism? All of these things you look from mental, physical, financial, it's all mental. Everything we do is mental. We can't do nothing without the mind. So for me, everything is developed in the mind. So, but having measurable goals, I think, is key. And focusing on healing yourself. And I would say clear thinking, right? Gaining clarity. Most people are not thinking. They're just reacting to reality. But thinking is probing. Thinking is reflecting. Thinking comes with realization. You know you have a good mind when you are constantly getting better at life. That means that you did something the first way, then you reflected on was that the best way, you gain clarity and understanding, and then you improved. It's a process. So you meet certain people and they're always improving in life because they're thinking better consistently, right? They know what to do better the next time. That's living.
Facts. And this is one thing I always say, growth is continuous. If you're not growing, you're dying.
It's a fact.
Yes, you gotta constantly grow and change as well. You can't be afraid of change, because without change you're stagnating, you're not going anywhere, which also is death.
That's a fact.
Yeah, so this was a great conversation.
Absolutely, thank you. Legendary episode.
Huh?
Legendary episode.
For sure, for sure.
Cut.